When I started writing Hello Bye Koko Come In, I was thinking a lot about what it meant to be black and queer and woman and coming from South Africa and traveling to Europe a lot. And just having the opportunity to be in these spaces to present work, but also what it meant to also grapple with the spaces that I was in and what that meant for the work and for myself. And I wanted to think about other women who possibly had to do this negotiation with space, with performance, with being looked at, with being made invisible at times, and what visibility means, and how you negotiate with all of these things. When I started writing the work, this thing of what is made visible and what is made invisible, and what it is that people see and what it is that people choose not to see, was a thing that came up often. But also in the process of writing itself, there's a lot of drafting and editing, and there's a lot that people, in the final product of the published book, there's a lot that people haven't seen, the drafts that have come before. And I wanted to explore what it would mean to work that process into the text and into the final form of the text, as a way of also just trying to explore the different kinds of lenses we use to look at things and to understand things, and what are some of the things that can't be taken back once you see them. I just wanted to also just experiment and see if you can write that into poems or a book.
Europe asks if it can touch my hair. Backspace. Europe touches my hair. My braids flung across its borders. It pats me down in Dutch. Colonialist memorabilia, inherited invasions, pencil test. Yes, sir. Ena. No, sir. Raised arms and parted hips, I have mastered how not to look angry, backspace, threatening. A visa with an expiry date and return ticket confirms I will perform and leave. I will sign books, careful to be understood, careful to hear and spell each of their names correctly while they mispronounce and mutilate mine. I will smile with the injury of my ancestors still hemorrhaging on my face, gather my braids back from the blue-eyed official, say, Danke, she, and move towards the carousel. In Europe or overseas, you are the sickness and the cure. In Europe or overseas, the platform, backspace, stage, saves those who know how to save themselves.
One of the things that the second collection deals with is the very painful reality that a lot of creatives, a lot of creative people, artists, die having never owned their work or not owning the rights to their work. There's actually not a lot of education around intellectual property. Well, I can't speak for other contexts, but in South Africa, there's not a lot of accessible knowledge around intellectual property and what it means to own the rights to your work, and what it means when, just all the stuff around it, essentially. And in writing the collection, I started to go through a lot of the black women that I talk about who are in politics, in entertainment, in performance, who were celebrated, who were lauded across the world in different ways. But when they died or when they came to the end of their life, the fruits of their labor, all of the hard work that they had done, a lot of the royalties or a lot of the things that they had worked for didn't go towards them or to their families. And so there's just so many people in the chain who benefit from the work or from the labor that we often put into as creatives. And that's a lot of that is also very systematic. And so I wanted to understand that, I wanted to undo that cycle for myself. I didn't want to be part of not understanding how things work. I wanted to also try and figure out how to empower myself, but also empower people around me to sort of understand the industry a little bit more, to understand the market a little bit more. The other thing is that, like, not every writer wants to publish their own books. Not every writer or performer wants to understand all of that stuff because it's not interesting for everybody. But for me, it was interesting, but it was also important to create new legacies and create new ways of thinking about how to be a performer who is in control of the narrative, or who can dictate how their own narrative will play out versus, leaving it in someone else's hands. Yeah, so I wanted to think about all of that. I wanted the work to touch on that because I went through that process myself where I took back the rights of the books and I published them through the publishing house that I run with someone else. I guess also an experiment. I guess I'm at a stage in my life where I'm just trying to, nothing is wrong or right. I'm just trying to figure out how everything works and how my work fits into everything and how I fit into everything. And I guess maybe in a year from now, I'll get bored and I'll sort of leave all of that and become a musician. I don't know. But for now, I'm trying to figure out how I fit into the lineage of stuff of women who've come before me and what did they do and how can I do things a bit differently.
The weight of remembering is both a synagogue and a graveyard. You remember to hold on. You remember to excavate. You excavate to remember. Some willingly surrender. Others, they trickle down your throat like splinters and sawdust, nudging you to write the insignificant. They unravel you between commas, between the mundane, between their birth names and aliases, between what they were called and what they called themselves, between their birth names and aliases, between who they became when they were looked at and which parts of themselves they forgave and laid down when they looked at themselves. The weight, the unbearable weight of memory, sets your manuscript alight every time you write their names without permission.
The beautiful thing about literature that I find sometimes is that it allows room for so much, in such a compact form, particularly with poetry. You can make people see things that they didn't necessarily see before, particularly with a context like South Africa, and with the women that I talk about in Hello Papa Koko come in and some of the events. You find that not a lot of people understand fully maybe the context of South Africa in its in everything that's going on, or even its past. Sometimes I think that a lot of the times people only know a part of South Africa's history or a part of what's happening there at the moment. And I guess with literature or with poems, you can sort of open up the world a little bit more, help people understand from a first-hand account of the experiences, or some people's experiences, of living in a country or living in a place, and what people's grievances are, what their pains are, but also what their joys are, what makes them tick, what makes them happy. Yeah, I guess that's the beauty of literature, is that you can open up a book from a place and begin to understand things differently or see them anew.